Hello there, this is Jared Mello, and this is a late night version of Mello Mentoring. And today, I'd like to talk a little bit about one of the biggest things I see hurting relationships today. And it stems back from most of our childhoods. But before I begin, if you enjoy videos about psychology, mental health, self-improvement, and relationships, please give me a subscribe and hit the notification bell so you know when I come up with more videos. And if you know people who might be interested in the channel, please share on social media platforms or wherever. I'd love to get my content out there. It's greatly appreciated. So the title of today's video was Disney, Ruining Relationships Since 1923. Now let's dive into that and unpack why that's even true. So Disney, what so many Disney movies do, besides Pinocchio is the exception to this rule, and there's probably a couple others too. The original Mary Poppins was pretty good too. But a lot of the post-50s, 60s Disney movies were about falling in love. And they romanticize attachment, romanticize emotional dependency amongst the man and the woman. In today's dating world, it is more acceptable for a woman to be emotionally dependent than the man, but it's not healthy for either one to really be emotionally dependent. However, feminine energy is more about bonding and family, child rearing, etc. That's why I say women can get away with it a little bit more. But for the generation of men today who were brought up maybe watching Disney at a young age, between birth and 10 years old, guess what that was doing? It was changing your brain. There's a concept called neuroplasticity. And that's the concept that the things we hear, the things we see, the people we talk to, it all changes our brain. So when we're watching Disney, watching all these happily ever after love stories, it is changing the neural pathways in our brain to be wired to be like love addicts, to be wired to become emotionally dependent, to be wired to be attached to whatever our romantic interests are or whatever our sexual preferences are. So there's a whole generation of people, if not more, who grew up with this. And it's not even just Disney. It's all sorts of other movies and TV shows do this thing too. And it put this fairy tale in people's heads that that's how it's supposed to be. But reality is so much different than what Disney portrays. Those storybook endings are exactly what it sounds like. Storybook endings. Fantasy. Reality is what? Like, do you ever see a Disney movie where two people are emotionally independent, taking care of their own lives, working on their careers and hobbies and their friends and families, and then when they're at their best alone, that's when they attract the best person to themselves? Not that I've seen. Not bloody likely. What you usually see more often is the person that is not okay being okay by themselves, and then usually it's the man comes and makes everything all better for the woman. And it's just like, well, that's wrong too. It's like, that's not how it's supposed to work. When both people are at their best, that's when relationships work. But this emotional dependent attachment fantasy, and I'm not even joking about this, it causes so much pain and suffering because attachment causes suffering. It's like, you ever heard the old joke about the Buddhist vacuum cleaner comes with no attachments? Well, guess what? Our relationships today would be so much healthier if they came without attachments. And what not just Disney has done, but other movies and TV shows too, they gave us a false precedent of something that is just unrealistic. It's not the way it is. And some people try to force the fantasy to work into their lives, and only if there's one person kind of dominating a relationship can that kind of work too. But when two people are working to be their best, it's just not the way it is. I mean, I would love to see TV and Disney stop glorifying the fantasy, because guess what? It's not helping anyone glorifying that fantasy. It's really not. And in fact, it's doing the opposite. It's hurting people. It's giving people the expectation that they can't be happy until they have an attachment, until they have a romantic interest, when in fact, the opposite is true. And so what they're doing is, I get it, it's an escape from the real world. It's an escape from the drag and the drags of everyday life. But the escape is making things worse. And I've half joshed around about this kind of thinking too, where instead of going on vacation from people's jobs, like everyone, I get to go on vacation to the Caribbean, to Europe, etc. And then they go back to their jobs and their job seems even more miserable because they had so much fun on vacation. I've often had the idea of a reverse vacation. What's a reverse vacation? A reverse vacation is when, instead of going to do something fun on vacation, it's like you put yourself in some sort of torture or jail setting. And I'm like, you know what? You go to jail, you go to some sort of hard labor camp. When you come back to your everyday life, guess what? You're pretty damn grateful for your everyday life now, aren't you? And probably the lasting effects of that kind of vacation would be way superior than the week or two you get from just having some fun and then going back to your everyday job. Now, of course, you're not going to want to do that for every vacation, but it might actually be one of the best, healthiest things you can do for yourself. Go on the painful vacation, so that makes you enjoy your life that much more. I heard a concept on Sam Harris's podcast the other day. He was talking to a guy, and they said, when you think of the worst case scenario, and like, thank God I didn't kill someone in a car, and then you realize that's not what happened, it really makes you grateful, and it makes you understand that, hey, how we have it right now is not half as bad as we think it is. And I get it. Bad shit does happen too, but this kind of reverse way of getting gratitude, there might be something to it. But I'm getting off track here a little bit. But yeah, the Disney movies, they're hurting people. Look at the relationships right now. Look at the divorce rate. There's a lot of things wrong. And social media is really hurting relationships too. Narcissism, other personality disorders are running rampant out there. And look at what's going on. It's a rough picture. Relationships aren't lasting forever anymore. People always want to turn in their toys for something new instead of working on something that's already there. I mean, it's craziness. And so, it's not even funny what Disney's doing. Like I said, they're hurting people. It's causing people emotional pain under the pretense of giving them an escape. And they do it to young children. Young children are watching this stuff. They're very impressionable. And parents should do a better job at screening what their kids are watching. But having that fantasy be a part of your child's life and then wonder why things go poorly in their relationship lives when they're older? Like, come on. So, I'd love to see some healthier examples, because all too many of us are starving for healthy examples of healthy relationships. What does healthy love look like? What does healthy self-love look like? And self-respect and self-care and assertively enforcing boundaries. None of this fantasy wish-wash and glorifying of emotional dependency and attachments. Forget all that. How about some real-life applications? And we don't see it anymore. There used to be a little more examples way back in the day, or what good parenting is like from Atticus Finch in To Kill a Mockingbird. Maybe one of the best examples of how to be a dad. But we're lacking a lot of those kind of things today. And so we really got to be mindful of what we're feeding our brains, especially our children's developmental brains. Not good. So that's my video for today. I'm going to come up with a video about quotes in a little bit. I had a viewer request to do such a thing, and I think that's probably going to be my next video. I'm also going to do a little skit of a narcissist and a borderline walk into a bar. That could be pretty cool too. But that's all I got for this version this evening, and have a great rest of your day.